My husband and I are two very unique individuals. We married later in life and have been on a trajectory of learning how to communicate with each other. A few summers ago, I asked him to identify this tall evergreen tree that's outside of our little community pool. I informed him there's these little balls growing on it without missing a beat. He told me, oh, it's a bald cypress. Now, if you know my handsome hubby, he has a unique sense of humor. He assures me his sarcasm is normal, and maybe I'm just a little naive. Well, I made the assumption that he was being sarcastic in his fun little humorous way. He was being cute, you know. The evergreen with little balls growing on it is called a bald cypress. Yeah. Our conversation went on for days. I would ask him time and time again, honey, what is that tree? And he would always respond the same. It's a bald cypress. The joke was getting a little old to me, and he started to express frustration with me for something. I couldn't figure out what. He continually tried to persuade me that the tree was indeed a bald cypress. Ha ha, honey. Finally, in complete exasperation one day, he said, I will stop. We'll look at the tree and we will look it up on Google. Then I decided, I'm going to get out my phone and Google it. And so I looked up bald cypress, Balled. And you know what? There is a tree called a bald cypress, but it's Bald. This is just one example of how some of our conversations go. We just totally miss out on what the other one is saying. Now, if you've been in a relationship for any amount of time, I'm sure you've experienced this miscommunication where you're just missing the mark. As mothers, I bet there are times when it seems like those little cherubs in your home are just not getting it. They're not understanding what you're trying to say. Your words seem to be falling on deaf ears. First, I'd like to ask, why is it so important that you be heard or understood? Why does it matter? And second, what can you do about that? Are there reasonable, small, consistent tweaks that you might be able to make? You know, a little minor adjustment that you can incorporate so that the misunderstandings and miscommunications are not so great. Well, hang on to all those hats you wear, Mama, because you are going to find the answer to these questions on today's episode of Mom to Mom Mentoring, where you will be empowered to find your voice and authority at home. Hey there, my empowered, brilliant, beautiful mom friends. I'm Misty Hughes, your gratitude guide, dream champion, celebration coach, and mom mentor. Today, I am beyond thrilled to introduce you to someone who embodies courage, creativity, and a little bit of crazy in the best way possible. My friend and communication expert, Laura Camacho, PhD. Laura's professional resume is pretty impressive. She's a globally recognized communication coach who's worked with high performers at companies like the Lego Group, Nestle, and Comcast. But what I love most is how her professional expertise and her personal journey beautifully collide. Laura has a great superpower of being able to whip up a delicious meal out of random pantry items. I'm officially inviting myself over for dinner tonight at 6 p.m. Before we make dinner plans, and before we dive into this inspiring, motivating conversation, I have a special announcement for all of you marvelous moms who are truly longing to live, lead, and love from a place of abundance instead of just getting by. I'm hosting an interactive virtual workshop called Align Your Life with What Matters Most. And it's happening on February 3rd and 4th from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. And the best part, it is absolutely free. Join me for this 2-day workshop where we'll explore how to align your life with your deepest values and priorities, which will help you avoid burnout. Make sure to sign up now. I'm limiting this workshop to only 12 women. You can go to mommentoring.com/values. I'll put the link in the show notes and invite your friends. Laura's life is nothing short of heroic. She gave birth to her 3 children in 3 different countries, becoming multilingual in the process. Talk about a global mom experience. She survived and even thrived through homeschooling her kids and calls it one of the most fun memories of her life. Laura, you are a hero because some of us barely survived pandemic homeschooling.
I want you all to realize being a mom, that's job number one. Thank you. You're bringing the
Mm.
future to reality and it's shaped through your work. You're talking to them, you're listening to them, the way you decorate, the way you cook, like all of that. You're creating these micro ecosystems developing humans. And thank you for doing that.
Laura's the kind of encouraging working mom we all wish we had in our corner. And today you get to hear how her bold experiences have shaped not only her family life, but also her incredible ability to transform conversations into meaningful moments. So let's dive in. Laura, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to dive in with you today. I'm a part of a mom entrepreneur Facebook group with Christian moms, and there's a lot of women in there that are homeschooling. I often hear from them that tension and that struggle. Should I send my kids to school because I'm not able to do this and stuff like that? Laura, how did you manage home, work, school, and educating your kids all at the same time?
I was in a rural part of North Carolina. And my mom, God bless her, moved from Atlanta to the area where I was living to help me out with the kids. At that point, I had 2, and then I had another one later on. She kept like seeding this homeschooling thing, this idea. And I was like, homeschool? Like, are you kidding me? I'm not a teacher. And I had this idea that it was, you at the blackboard or the whiteboard all day teaching your child.
Uh-huh.
And that certainly doesn't sound like a lot of fun to me. Even though I did that at the university, that's a situation where I changed my mind in a big time, and thank God, because it turned out to be so much fun. I got a plug and play curriculum. There is no thought, there's no planning. That gave me the confidence to get started, and I felt like that's gonna make sure that my children are not illiterate, and then on top of that, you get to do all the fun things. And so the fun part was, going out and drawing plants or going to the library and bringing home wheelbarrow loads of books or going to a museum or doing science experiments. I mean, it's just so much fun. Then later, I was going to graduate school and homeschooling and teaching the 2 classes. And that was definitely tough. That was tough, but I honed this skill, and I bet a lot of you moms will identify with this laser focus.
Mm.
Like I have 5 minutes before I have to do this other thing. So what can I do in 5 minutes? And you just crunch and you do
Mm.
it. If that's your personality type and that's the way you respond, makes you extremely productive, also makes you impatient with other people.
What I hear you saying, because you did work, you had a support.
I
You had
did.
your mom's support and you didn't work full time, so
Right,
you
right.
could be with your kids in the in between times. Then you got a plug and play curriculum.
Yes,
That's what you
yes.
needed.
Yeah, I did.
So it sounded like you knew what you needed and you were able to access the resources and weren't afraid to. And
Yeah,
and
yes.
that's one thing I've noticed in the conversations we've had. You do a lot of things that are kind of outside of the box. You do things that might be a little bit scary to some.
Yes, yes, I that's a fair statement. I come from a several generations of very strong, maybe stubborn women who have a vision and they just go for it. My
Yeah.
great-grandmother, for example, went to college and to teach, and she taught on a Native American reservation. But later in life, when her daughter's husband died young, this great grandmother also moved close by, opened a hair salon in her home. And so that's entrepreneur. This must have been like the 1940s. Women, whether you're afraid or not, we do what you have to do. And
Mm,
I think that's
yeah.
one of the great things about women. We do what is needed and worry about the thanks and getting the credit later, where the courage comes in.
Well, let's talk about communication. I'm an extrovert. You're an
Mhm.
introvert,
Right?
right? And I am very much a verbal processor. Uh,
Okay.
and I want to be heard. Now, I'm sure that's the same for you, right? Don't you think we all have that innate desire to be heard?
And to
Right.
be understood,
Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
and that's a great communication point. If you're handing out $100 bills or bringing people cake, I mean, the communication doesn't really matter, right? Because it's all butterflies and flowers and rainbows. But when you have conflict, which is just part of life, and it's good because we work out our differences, iron sharpens irons.
Iron.
But one communication tip for those of you who may have a conflict in mind is start by articulating the other person's point of view to their satisfaction. If you and I are having a fight about something, I am most likely going to think, it's just that Missy doesn't understand what I'm saying. Because if she understood, then of course she would agree with me. And you're thinking the same thing. So if I say, Misty, let me make sure I understand. You're saying this, and this. Am I right? And then I have to say it to where you're like, yes, Laura, that's exactly my point of view. And then I can say, well, Missy, the thing is, because you haven't studied communication as much as I have, you don't know, you're not aware of this other thing. And that make that little distinction. So persuasion is a um, process, a continuum.
Ah,
So to move someone along, you want to express that you understand the other person's point of view. That's a starting point for a fruitful conversation about something you disagree with.
okay. Powerful. Because I'm just thinking about like communication with my husband or with my children. It doesn't really even matter if they're 6 or 16.
Right.
Saying to a 6-year-old, let me make sure mommy understands what you're so angry about.
Right. Or, 6-year-old Misty, said, let me get this straight. So you want to have ice cream for breakfast instead of oatmeal. Is that right? Well, the thing is, I would like ice cream too, but it's not going to end well. I know. And I mean, there's no panacea, there's no magic, but it's a lot of fine tuning. It's not like, oh, I need to do this, radically change. It's a lot of
Yeah.
fine tuning. Yes, let me make sure I understand what you're saying, or what I'm taking away from this, or what I hear you say is that is relationship building. But you have to do this like before you get angry or
Mm,
defensive. So I recommend to everybody listening, if you want to get better at communicating with anybody, that start by just inserting this phrase, "Oh, what I understand you're saying is, blah, blah, blah." Just that alone is a relationship builder, a communication skill builder, and it'll make you win more arguments. So what's not to love about that? Everybody wants to feel that they are smart and capable and good. And usually when we have a disagreement, it's because we think the other person doesn't understand fully. And then they can interpret that as Laura thinks I'm dumb. Not good. It's not going to end well.
Laura, oh my gosh, that is what I say all the time. I just want to be understood. I have this innate need, and I believe we all do, to be understood. I don't have to try to explain what I'm trying to say. I just have to come into the conversation with the phrase, what I understand you're saying is this tree with these little balls on it is called a bald cypress. Is that correct? That would have validated my husband. He would have felt heard. Then we could have taken the conversation on from there. Instead, I tried to make my point heard.
Exactly. And if you have a conversation where somebody says that to you, I promise you will feel like the balm of Gilead on your soul, because it's just like you have pointed out. We all have this innate desire to be understood. We're not going to agree on everything, but if at least we can understand what we disagree about, is better than just shutting it down.
Just hearing that makes me feel respected, makes me
Right.
valued,
Right.
makes me feel heard. And, that's powerful. And
It
that's
is.
so simple.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing with all my tricks and tips and tools. I mean, they're things that you've probably heard from your grandma, but, they work
Yeah.
and we just get distracted and we forget. I mean, I am a communication coach because I needed it. Like, I needed help.
Mhm.
I was the bad communicator.
Wow. What an empowering conversation with Laura Camacho today. One key takeaway for me is how powerful it is to start any difficult conversation by saying, "What I understand you're saying is." That simple phrase can diffuse tension, build connection, and help navigate even the trickiest conflicts with grace. Laura Camacho has truly mastered the art of helping leaders and moms like you have more meaningful, productive conversations. Whether it's at work or home, her wisdom equips you to communicate with clarity, confidence, and heart. You can get bite sized golden nuggets of Laura's communication wisdom on her podcast, Speak Up. I'll include the link in the show notes. Remember, moms, you're shaping the future with every word you speak and every conversation you nurture. Don't forget to register for my free Align Your Life virtual workshop happening on February 3rd and 4th. This is your chance to align your life with what matters most and avoid burnout. Spaces are limited, so grab your spot at momtomommentoring.com/values. Invite a friend to join you. Before we wrap up, I'd love for you to leave a review and share this podcast with a friend who could use some encouragement. Reviews help more moms like you discover these empowering conversations. And you won't want to miss next week's Mom to Mom Mentoring with Laura Part 2, where you will learn how to be proactive, present, and purposeful in your communication, whether it's with your 6-year-old child or your 60-year-old parent. Remember, Mom, you were made to live boldly, lead with grace, and love abundantly. Keep showing up because you are changing the world, one conversation at a time.